you walk down any main street in a major city anywhere on planet Earth, you'll realize there are many different sights to see. Things such as one-legged men busking for money, native birds digging through bins looking for scraps, and most importantly, you'll notice thousands of rideshare scooters littering every street corner as far as the eye can see. But while rideshare scooters have been absolutely polluting every major city across the world for the last 3 or so years, in today's video we'll be focusing on one of the founding fathers of the rideshare pollution epidemic and the original Yara River ornament, the oBike. In 2017, a brand new mode of transport was just released in Singapore. This new mode of transport was a company named oBike. The way that oBike worked was by scattering a bunch of bicycles around the city in different locations and allowing any user with the app downloaded to simply walk up to the bike, scan a QR code and pay a small fee, which allowed them to ride that bike wherever they wanted, and when they were all done with their journey, they could just park it up and it was ready for the next person. This was a great idea, and in Singapore, it worked really well. And that was because of 2 reasons. The first of which being that Singapore isn't full of degenerates, and the fact that if you get caught vandalizing property that isn't yours, the government literally bashes you. Now, the people at oBike realised that their idea was working and decided it'd be a good idea to expand into different countries. And boy, was that a mistake. You see, one of the countries that they decided to expand their business into was Australia, and more specifically, the city of Melbourne. Now, as most of you may know, I'm from Melbourne, Australia, which means I know more about how oBike went down in Melbourne than somewhere like Portugal. So obviously, that's where this video will be focused. So without further ado, let's get into the oBike debacle. The oBike rollout in Melbourne went surprisingly smoothly. Apart from a few complaints about the oBikes being an eyesore and the fact that you had to put a $69 deposit down just to ride the things, the general consensus was that oBike was a good thing. It gave the people of Melbourne an option of transport that was cheaper than Uber and more convenient than public transport, and all was going just as oBike had planned, for about 2 weeks. You see, in Melbourne, if people don't have to pay for something, they're not going to. And unsurprisingly, oBike was no exception. You see, the only thing that stood between you and a brand new, free bicycle was this little piece of metal that locked the back wheel. Now let's just say you've got a strong kick or a set of bolt cutters. If you manage to kick this little handle hard enough or cut this bit of metal out completely, you could free up that back wheel and ride off into the sunset. And of course, that's exactly what everyone did. I personally had my own collection of oBikes down the side of my house that I'd use to ride to and from school. But let's just say you don't have a set of bolt cutters or a strong kick. Well, that's alright. First ride's free anyway. As long as you don't connect a credit card to your account or lock that wheel up when you're done, the bike's yours as long as it stays unlocked. And let's just say that you clumsily lock that bike again and they want you to pay for the next ride, just make a new account and rinse and repeat. Now obviously there's not too much on the internet on how to steal oBikes, but I personally remember me and many of my friends using this technique to score ourselves free push bikes. At one point we even started a collection. But you see, as easy and prevalent as oBike theft was, this wasn't even the biggest problem with them. You see, due to the fact that many oBikes spent most of their time in the city, that meant that they were in close proximity to the Yara River. And you know what else is in the city? A whole bunch of clubs and bars. Now you don't need to be a rocket surgeon to figure out where this is going, but it is well documented that in 2017, every pissed idiot who walked over this bridge on the Yara River made a conscious effort to go out of their way, track down an oBike, and toss that bitch off the top. Now you may be thinking that there was only ever a few oBikes thrown into the Yara River, but that is where you're wrong. You see, once videos started popping up on the news and social media of people throwing oBikes into the Yara River, it became a sort of trend. This was such a prolific problem that I personally remember walking down the Yara River and seeing yellow wheels submerged just below the waterline. The problem became so bad that the council had to pay someone to go out on a boat and go fishing for oBikes. And in 4 hours of oBike fishing, they found not one, not two, not 3, but 42 oBikes at the bottom of the Yara River. We even had some vigilante oBike fishers, such as this guy who made his own YouTube video using a big hook and a bit of rope. He himself also managed to catch a couple oBikes. I'll leave a link to that in the description. oBike dumping and abuse was such a big problem that it was the main reason that oBike had to leave the entire country. Some other popular oBike dumping spots included trees, lampposts, street signs, and pretty much anywhere else where it was inappropriate to park a bicycle. Now I could waffle on all day about the dumping of oBikes, but that of course would bore you to tears. So here's a little montage I prepared to show you guys the absolutely ridiculous scale of the oBike dumping problem. Right, that's enough of that. During 2017 and 2018, there was nothing more fun than throwing an oBike into the Yara River. Partially because in Melbourne there's not much else to do, and partly because it's funny as bruh. But after about a year of tossing oBikes into the Yara River and hanging them from trees by the handlebars, a little company called the EPA got involved. On the 11th of June 2018, the EPA told oBike that they had 24 hours to remove damaged or vandalised bikes, 48 hours to remove bikes in, and I quote, inappropriate situations, and 7 days to retrieve any bikes that had been sent to Davy Jones' locker. And for any bike in these situations that they left behind, they'd be fined $3,000. Now, due to the fact that every single oBike was in an inappropriate situation, damaged, vandalised, or in the Yara River, they realised that this would likely cause bankruptcy and they decided to pull out of Melbourne. So they collected up every oBike that they could actually get their hands on and dumped them at this top secret facility on the corner of Station Street and Norkel Road in Nuttawading, also known as the oBike Graveyard, and got to work with their great escape. But that's not where this story ends, because oBike still had one more trick up their sleeve. Remember that $69 deposit I mentioned earlier on in this video? Well, that was supposed to be a refundable deposit, and it was. Until oBike, just before they announced they were pulling the pin, decided to remove the refund request feature from the app. So in the end, oBike lost millions, a few people lost $70, and 5 years later, Melbourne's streets, trees and rivers are still filled with rideshare bicycles. But it always brightens up my day when I'm walking down the street and I see a man riding a stolen oBike with a basket full of cask wine. And on that note, it's time to end. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, comment and share. And a shout out to everyone who bought a super chat last week. But most importantly, I'd like to thank everyone who's hit that subscribe button. It's been a massive year making videos this year, and I know that next year is going to be even bigger. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys next year. So make sure to subscribe because you won't want to miss it.